The stars burned cold and distant as Captain Kim Soo-jin watched the enemy ships fill her screens. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. The hegemony fleet stretched across space like a dark tide, their massive vessels blocking out entire starfields. "Captain, we're receiving emergency transmissions from all sectors," reported Lieutenant Hanbora from the communications station. Her voice was steady, but Kim could see the fear in her young eyes. "The colonies are requesting immediate evacuation." Kim nodded grimly. She had commanded the Terran colonial fleet for 8 years, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. The hegemony had been sweeping across the galaxy for months, destroying or enslaving every civilization they encountered. Now they had reached human space. "What about our allies?" Kim asked. "The Altarians promised to send their battle fleet." Lieutenant Han's fingers danced across her controls. "Captain, I'm detecting Altarian ship signatures. But they're moving. Away from our position. They're retreating." Kim felt her stomach drop. The Altarians had been humanity's first contact with alien life 50 years ago. They had seemed so wise, so peaceful. They had promised friendship and mutual defense. "Try to contact them," Kim ordered. "I'm trying, Captain, but they're not responding." To our hails. On the main screen, Kim watched as the elegant silver ships of the Altarians began jumping to hyperspace. One by one, they vanished, leaving empty space where humanity's allies should have been. "Captain, the Nexus collective ships are also withdrawing," reported Ensign Park J1 from the tactical station. "They're cutting all communication channels." Kim closed her eyes for a moment. The Nexus collective were cybernetic beings who had once called humans their fascinating organic cousins. They had shared technology and knowledge freely. "We're abandoning humanity without even a goodbye." "What about the Zenthari?" Kim asked, though she already knew the answer. "Their crystal ships are jumping away as well," Han replied quietly. "Captain, we're alone." The bridge fell silent, except for the hum of the ship's systems. Kim looked at her crew, all young humans who had volunteered to protect the outer colonies. They were good people, brave people. They didn't deserve this. Captain Han said suddenly, "I'm receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council." Kim straightened in her chair. "Put it through." The holographic image of Counselor Thane appeared above the main console. The aliens' four eyes regarded Kim with what might have been pity. "Captain Kim Soo-jin of the Terran Colonial Fleet. The Galactic Council has reached a decision regarding your species." "We're listening," Kim replied, though she could guess what was coming. "After careful consideration, we have determined that humanity lacks the evolutionary advancement necessary to survive contact with the hegemony. Your species has been classified as ... expendable. We will not intervene in your conflict." Kim felt anger rising in her chest. Expendable? We've been allies for decades. We've shared our culture, our technology, our friendship. "Your friendship was appreciated," Thane said, in a tone that suggested it had been anything but. "However, the hegemony's victory is inevitable. We see no benefit in sacrificing our own forces for a lost cause." The transmission ended, leaving Kim staring at empty space where the counselor's image had been. "Captain Ensign," Park said, "the hegemony ships are moving into attack formation. They'll be in weapons range in 10 minutes. Kim looked around at her crew, young faces frightened but determined. They had joined the colonial fleet to protect human settlements, and that's exactly what they were going to do. "All ships, this is Captain Kim. Form defensive positions around the evacuation transports. We're going to buy our people as much time as we can." Captain Han said, "I'm detecting a transmission from Earth. It's on all frequencies. Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was calm and steady, with the authority of someone who had made a decision that would change everything. "All human vessels, this is Terra Command. We have received word of the situation in the outer colonies. We know our allies have abandoned us. We know the galaxy has written us off. But we haven't written off you." Kim felt her heart racing. This was Earth speaking. Home, the world that had sent them out to the stars. "To all human ships and colonies under threat, hold your positions. Defend your people. Fight with everything you have. We're coming for you." Every ship, Every soldier, every resource Earth can muster is being mobilized. We will not abandon our own. The transmission paused, and when it resumed, the voice was harder, filled with cold determination. To the hegemony and their allies, you have made a grave mistake. You thought humanity was alone. You thought we were weak. You were wrong. We are not alone. We have each other. And we are not weak. We are human. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Kim looked at her crew and saw something she hadn't expected. They were smiling. Not the desperate grins of people facing certain death, but the quiet smiles of people who had just remembered who they were. Earth, Kim said. We hold the line. The hegemony ships were almost in range now, their weapons powering up. But for the first time since this nightmare began, Kim felt hope. Earth was coming.
How?
3 months had passed since the galaxy abandoned humanity. Admiral Park Dong-woo stood on the bridge of his battleship Defiance, watching the scanner display. With grim eyes, red dots filled the screen, enemy ships surrounding the mining colony of New Kyoto like wolves around wounded prey. How many civilians are still down there? Park asked his communications officer, Lieutenant Kim Min-jun. Approximately 2,000, sir. Mostly families and mine workers. They're hiding in the underground tunnels. Park nodded slowly. 2,000. Human lives depending on his small fleet of 12 ships. Hegemony had brought 50 vessels to harvest this little world. The math was simple and brutal. Sir, the hegemony is broadcasting their usual message, Kim reported Park had heard. It before, the aliens would demand surrender, promise that cooperation would mean survival. They lied. Every human world that had surrendered had been stripped bare. Its population taken as slaves or worse. Ignore them, Park ordered. All ships, prepare for attack pattern Delta. We're going to hit them hard and fast, his tactical officer Ensign. Lee So-young looked up from her station. Admiral, our weapons are no match for their shields. We've been fighting with salvaged equipment for months. It was true. Since the abandonment, human forces had been making do with whatever they could find. Broken alien weapons, patched together armor, ships held together by determination and spare parts. The hegemony, meanwhile, had technology that seemed almost magical. I know, Park said quietly. But those people down there are counting on us. We don't run. The first wave of hegemony fighters screamed toward them, their plasma cannons lighting up the void. Park's ships responded with everything they had, missiles, railguns, the desperate courage of people with nothing left to lose. The battle was fierce but brief. One by one, Park's ships were destroyed or disabled. The Defiance herself took hit after hit, her hull cracking under the alien assault. Emergency lights bathed the bridge in red as systems failed around them. Sir, we're losing life support on decks 4 through 7, reported Chief Engineer Choi Hyun-woo over the com. I can't stop the breaches. Park watched helplessly as the last of his escort ships exploded in brilliant flame. The hegemony vessels moved past his crippled battleship toward the planet below. He had failed. Admiral Kim said suddenly, I'm receiving multiple transmissions from the surface. The hegemony is landing troops. Park closed his eyes. He could imagine what was happening down there. Families hiding in dark tunnels, listening to the sound of alien boots above them. Children crying while their parents tried to comfort them with lies about rescue that would never come. But then something strange happened. Kim's voice rose with excitement. Sir, I'm detecting new ships entering the system. Lots of them. Park opened his eyes and looked at the tactical display. New contacts were appearing on the edge of the system, dozens of them moving in perfect formation. But these weren't hegemony ships. The design was familiar, yet somehow different. Those are human ships, Ensign Lee whispered. But I've never seen that configuration before. The lead ship broadcast on all frequencies. The voice was crisp, professional, and spoke with an accent Park recognized as Earth Standard. This is Captain Yoon Dae-ho of the Terran Defense Force. All hegemony vessels. You are ordered to withdraw immediately from human space. Park felt his heart skip. The Terran Defense Force? He'd never heard of such an organization. The hegemony responded as expected with weapons fire. They're massive. Dreadnoughts turned away from the planet to face this new threat. Park watched in amazement as the human ships didn't retreat. Instead, they accelerated straight into the enemy formation. What happened next would be talked about for generations. The new human ships moved like nothing Park had ever seen, their weapons tearing through hegemony shields as if they were made of paper. These weren't the desperate, struggling forces Park had been leading. These were professional soldiers with equipment that matched or exceeded anything the aliens had. "How is this possible?" Ensign Lee asked. Park didn't answer. He was too busy watching the battle unfold. The human ships fought with a precision and fury that sent chills down his spine. They weren't just defending themselves, they were hunting. Within an hour, the hegemony fleet was either destroyed or fleeing. The alien ground forces on New Kyoto found themselves cut off and surrounded. They surrendered without firing another shot. Captain Yoon's ship approached the Defiance. "Admiral Park, this is Captain Yoon. We're sending repair crews to your vessel. Are you in need of medical assistance?" We're fine," Park managed to say. "Captain, where did you come from? How did you know we were here?" "We've been tracking hegemony movements for months, sir. Earth has been very busy since the abandonment. We have a lot to show you." As repair crews worked to fix his ship, Park received a data package from Earth. What he read made his hands shake. Ship construction numbers, weapon specifications, troop, deployment schedules. Earth had been preparing for war on a scale that boggled the mind. The planet had converted its entire industrial capacity to military production. Factories that once made cars now built warships. Research facilities that had studied medicine now developed weapons. The whole world had become a fortress, and that fortress was coming to reclaim its scattered children. But most importantly, Park realized as he read the reports, Earth had not forgotten them. While the galaxy had written off humanity as expendable, Earth had been working day and night to prove them wrong. Captain Leuna checked her weapon one final time as the transport ship shuddered through atmospheric entry. Around her, 30 soldiers of the Terran Guard sat in perfect silence, their faces hidden behind black combat helmets. These weren't the desperate colonial defenders the hegemony had been fighting for months. These were Earth's best. 2 minutes. "Two-drop zone," announced the pilot over the comm system. "Intelligence reports heavy hegemony presence around the civilian shelters." Ali looked out the small window at the colony of Haven's End below. Smoke rose from burning buildings, and she could see the alien ships landed like metal insects across the settlement. Somewhere down there, 3,000 human civilians were hiding in underground bunkers, waiting for rescue that might never come. "Remember your training," Lee told her squad. "These aliens think they know how humans fight. They're wrong. We show them what Earth has taught us." The transport's rear door opened with a hiss, revealing the burning sky above Haven's End. Lee was the first to jump, her powered armor carrying her safely to the ground. Her soldiers followed, landing in a perfect circle around the colony's main entrance. The first hegemony patrol they encountered never knew what hit them. The aliens were tall, reptilian creatures with advanced energy weapons, but they moved slowly and relied too heavily on their shields. Lee's squad hit them with kinetic rounds that punched through their defenses like they were made of glass. Contact. Human forces are in the settlement. One of the aliens managed to broadcast before Lee's rifles silenced him forever. More enemy. Troops poured out of the buildings, their plasma rifles lighting up the dusty streets. But something was wrong. These humans weren't running or hiding like the others they had fought. They were advancing, moving with a coordination and purpose that made the aliens hesitate. Lee's helmet display showed her everything enemy positions. Friendly forces, tactical options. This was technology the colonial defenders had never possessed. Earth had been busy while the galaxy abandoned its children. Squad 2, take the north entrance, Lee ordered through her comm. Squad 3, secure the power station. Squad 1, with me, to the bunker entrance. The hegemony commander, a massive alien with scarred armor, appeared at the end of the main street. He carried a weapon that could have cut through a tank, and his voice boomed across the settlement. "Surrender now, humans. You cannot win against the hegemony." Lee stepped into the open, her rifle steady in her hands. "We're not here to win against the hegemony," she called back. "We're here to destroy you." The alien fired first, his energy beam scorching the ground where Lee had been standing. But she was no longer there. The Terran Guard had been trained to fight enemies with superior technology. They moved like ghosts, struck like lightning, and disappeared before the enemy could react. Lee's squad surrounded the hegemony commander. In seconds, his advanced shields meant nothing against their coordinated assault. When the dust settled, the most feared warrior in the sector lay still in the dirt. "All enemy forces eliminated," reported Sergeant Park Jihoon over the comm. "The civilians are safe, Captain." Lee nodded, but her mind was already on the larger picture. Through her helmet's communication system, she could hear reports from across the colony. The hegemony forces were retreating, confused and demoralized. They had never faced humans like this before. "Captain Lee," came a voice over the command channel. "This is Admiral Park Dongwoo aboard the Defiance." "What's your status?" Lee smiled inside her helmet. She had read about Admiral Park, the man who had held the line during the dark months after the abandonment. "Colony secured, Admiral. All civilians accounted for. The hegemony forces are in full retreat." "Outstanding work, Captain. But I have to ask, how did you do it?" "They had superior numbers and technology." Lee looked around at her soldiers as they helped frightened civilians emerge from their hiding places. Human children ran to embrace their parents, while the elderly wept with relief. This was what they had trained for on Earth, not glory or conquest, but the simple act of bringing their people home. "Admiral, the hegemony made a mistake," Lee explained. "They thought technology was everything. They forgot that wars are won by soldiers, not machines. Earth taught us that." Over the next few hours, more reports came in from across the system. Other Terran Guard units had achieved similar victories. The alien forces that had seemed unstoppable were suddenly finding themselves outfought and outmaneuvered at every turn. But the real shock came when the hegemony fleet in orbit attempted to provide support for their ground forces. Earth's new warships, commanded by officers like Captain Yoon Daeho, met them in battle above the colony. The alien ships, designed to intimidate primitive species, found themselves facing weapons and tactics they had never encountered. "Captain," reported Sergeant Park, "we're receiving a transmission from one of the hegemony ships. They're requesting permission to retreat." Lee raised an eyebrow. "Requesting permission? From us?" "Yes, ma'am. They're saying they don't want to fight humans anymore." Lee thought about the months of suffering the hegemony had inflicted on human colonies. The families torn apart, the worlds left burning, the people taken as slaves. Earth's children had paid a terrible price for the galaxy's abandonment. "Tell them," Lee said quietly, "that Earth remembers what they did to our people. It can retreat, but they'll never be safe from us again." As the alien ships fled into hyperspace, Lee watched the human colonists emerge fully from their shelters. They looked at her and her soldiers with wonder, as if they were seeing something they had forgotten could exist. These people had been abandoned by the galaxy, left to die by their former allies. But Earth had not forgotten them. Earth had come for them, and the tide of war was finally turning. General Choi Min-ho stood in the command center, deep beneath Seoul, surrounded by screens showing star maps from across the galaxy, red dots marked human colonies under attack, while blue dots showed Earth's fleets moving to their rescue. For the first time in months, there were more blue dots than red ones. "General Fleet 7 has just arrived at the Kepler system," reported Colonel Song Haeri from her station. "They're engaging hegemony forces around the mining colonies." Choi nodded, watching the tactical display update in real time, and Fleet 12. "They've successfully liberated the agricultural worlds in the Centauri sector. The hegemony forces retreated without putting up much of a fight." Choi allowed himself a small smile. The plan was working. For 3 months after the abandonment, Earth had done nothing but prepare. Every factory, every shipyard, every research facility had been converted to support the war effort. The planet had become a fortress, and now that fortress was striking back. "Sir," called out Lieutenant Kim Woo-jin from the communications array, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Admiral Park's fleet. They've encountered something unusual. Put it through, Choi ordered. Admiral Park's voice crackled through. The speakers? General, we've just finished the liberation of Haven's End, but something strange is happening. We're detecting Altarian ships approaching our position. Choi frowned. The Altarians had been among the first to abandon humanity when the hegemony arrived. Are they hostile? It's just it, sir. They're broadcasting on peaceful frequencies. They're asking for permission to approach. Denied, Choi said immediately. They made their choice when they left us to die. Understood, General? But, sir, they're not the only ones. We're getting similar requests from Zenthari vessels in 3 other systems. Even some of the Nexus Collective ships are trying to make contact. Choi felt a cold anger in his chest. These were the same species that had called humans their friends, their allies, their brothers. When the test came, they had run like cowards. Now, seeing Earth's strength, they wanted to come crawling back. All fleet commanders are to maintain radio silence with former allied species, Choi commanded. We have work to do. On the main display, he could see the scope of Earth's military buildup. Hundreds of ships, thousands of soldiers, weapons, and technology that surpassed anything the galaxy had seen. The industrial capacity of an entire world focused on a single goal, bringing humanity's children home. But the real revelation came when the hegemony tried to make their stand at the fortress world of Tartarus. They had gathered their remaining fleets there, confident that their superior technology would win the day. They were wrong. Captain Lee Yuna's voice came through the CUM system from the surface of Tartarus. General, the hegemony ground forces are surrendering. They're saying they don't want to fight humans anymore. Why? Choi asked. Sir, they're terrified. They've never faced an enemy that fights the way we do. They're used to overwhelming, primitive species with superior technology. But we've matched their technology and exceeded their tactics, Choi understood. The hegemony had grown soft, accustomed to easy victories against species that couldn't fight back effectively. They had never faced an enemy that could match them ship for ship, weapon for weapon, and still fight with the desperate fury of the abandoned. General Colonel Song reported, "We're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. They're requesting immediate diplomatic contact." Choi laughed bitterly. Now they want to talk, after writing us off as expendable. Sir, Counselor, Thane is personally requesting a meeting. He says it's urgent. I'm sure it is, Choi replied. Tell the Galactic Council that Earth is busy. We'll talk when our people are safe. The truth was, Earth didn't need the Galactic Council anymore. The planet's scientists had reverse-engineered alien technology and improved upon it. Human engineers had designed weapons that could penetrate any shield, ships that could outmaneuver any enemy, and soldiers who could outfight any opponent. But more importantly, Earth had something the galaxy had forgotten: unity. While other species formed alliances based on convenience and abandoned them when things got difficult, humans fought for each other. Every soldier, every pilot, every engineer was working not for conquest or glory, but to bring their people home. General Lieutenant Kim called out, "We're receiving reports from across the galaxy. Human colonies are celebrating. The hegemony forces are retreating or surrendering everywhere." Choi nodded, but his expression remained serious. And what? About the species that abandoned us? What are they doing? They're panicking, sir. Our intelligence reports suggest they're worried about retaliation. They've realized that Earth is now the strongest military power in the galaxy. Good, Choi said quietly. They should be worried. On the screens around him, he could see the final phase of the operation beginning. Earth's fleets were converging on the last hegemony strongholds, while rescue ships evacuated human civilians from the conquered worlds. Soon, every human in the galaxy would be safe. But the real victory wasn't military. It was the message Earth had sent to the galaxy: humanity would never again depend on the promises of fair-weather friends. They had learned that when everyone gives up on you, you don't give up on yourself. The galaxy was about to learn that lesson too. President Song Hae-ri stood before the massive assembly hall on Earth, looking out at representatives from across the galaxy. Altarians with their silver robes, Zenthari with their crystal bodies, Nexus Collective cyborgs. and dozens of other species that had once called humanity their friends. They had all come to Earth, seeking forgiveness, seeking to rebuild the alliances they had broken. Behind her, through the great windows, she could see the orbital shipyards where Earth's new fleet was being built, massive warships that dwarfed anything the galaxy had ever seen. The planet that had once been seen as a backwater world was now the most powerful military force in known space. Honored delegates, song began, her voice carrying clearly through the hall. Welcome to Earth. Many of you have not set foot on our world for many years. Some of you have never been here at all. She paused, letting her words sink in. Front row Counselor Thane of the Galactic Council shifted uncomfortably. The same alien who had declared humanity expendable now sat waiting for Earth's forgiveness. 6 months ago, humanity faced extinction, Song continued. Came for us with overwhelming force, and we called upon our friends for help. We called upon our allies, our trading partners, our brothers and sisters among the stars. The delegates looked down at their hands, feet, or whatever appendages they possessed. They knew what came next. And you left us to die. The words hung in the air, like a physical thing. Song could see alien diplomats flinching, as if she had struck them. Good. They needed to understand what they had done. The Galactic Council declared us expendable. The Altarians fled without a word. The Zenthari, who had called us brothers, abandoned us in our darkest hour. The Nexus Collective, who had shared our dreams of exploration, cut all communications. Ambassador. Keth of the Altarians rose from his seat. President Song, we deeply regret our actions. We were afraid. The hegemony seemed unstoppable, and we thought— You thought we were weak, Song interrupted. You thought we were primitive. You thought we'd be easy prey for the hegemony, and you didn't want to share our fate. Keth sat back down, unable to argue with her words. Song walked to the center of the stage, her footsteps echoing in the silent hall. But you were wrong. We were not weak. We were not primitive. We were not alone. She gestured to the screens around the hall, which showed images from across the galaxy. Human colonies rebuilt and thriving. Earth's fleets patrolling space lanes, keeping them safe. The hegemony's former territories, now under human protection. We saved ourselves, Song said simply. When the galaxy abandoned us, we did not abandon each other. When our friends betrayed us, we remained faithful to our own. When everyone gave up on us, we did not give up on ourselves. Counselor Thane rose slowly from his seat. President Song, the Galactic Council recognizes that we made a grave error. We are prepared to offer full reparations and restore humanity's status as a founding member of the Council. Song smiled, but it was not a warm smile. Counselor Thane, humanity no longer needs the Galactic Council's recognition. We have learned to stand on our own. But surely, Thane pressed, you must see the value in cooperation, in unity among the species of the galaxy. I do see the value in unity, Song replied. But I also see the value in loyalty, and standing by your friends when they need you most, and keeping your word when keeping it is hard. She looked around the hall at the assembled delegates. All want to be our friends again. You see our strength and wish to benefit from it. But friendship is not a contract to be signed when convenient and abandoned when difficult. Ambassador Keth stood again. What must we do to earn your forgiveness? Song was quiet for a long moment. Through the windows, she could see Earth's children, returning home from the rescued colonies, families reunited, communities rebuilt, hope restored. All because Earth had refused to give up on its own. You want to know what you must do? Song asked. Prove yourselves. Not to us, but to yourselves. The next time someone needs help, the next time a species faces extinction, the next time friends call out in the darkness, be there, stand with them, fight for them, show the galaxy that you have learned what loyalty means. The hall was silent as the delegates absorbed her words. Earth will trade with you, Song continued. We will cooperate where our interests align. We will even defend you if you are attacked. But we will never again depend on your promises. We will never again trust our survival to your courage. walked back to the podium, her final words carrying the weight of a world that had learned to trust only itself. The age of humanity depending on others for protection is over. We are the guardians of our own fate now. The galaxy abandoned us when we needed them most. We will not make that mistake again. As the delegates filed out of the hall, many of them looked back at the screens, showing Earth's mighty fleets. They had come seeking forgiveness and found something else entirely, a humanity that no longer needed them. The galaxy had given up on Earth, but Earth had never given up on itself, and that song had made all the difference.